Hi, my name is Peter Driscoll. I am the CEO and founder of Maverick Capital Company and Prestige Australian Financial Services. I'm also the founder of another company called Maverick Developments. We are interested in helping Australians build wealth through property acquisition. So we invite onto this show various experts who are players in the real estate game to give you their tips and their insights into what's happening in the Australian real estate game and how they've got to where they've got to. So today's guest is Nathan Lewes. So Nathan Lewes has been working in various aspects of the Australian property industry for more than 14 years. He's worked in a range of roles from local residential real estate to high-end property marketing and in offices across Australia from Sydney to Perth. Nathan has gained a unique insight into the industry during his career, working alongside financial advisors, mortgage brokers, and other real estate agents. He co-founded Asset Base in 2017 to work on his passion, negotiating great deals for buyers looking to get into the property investment market. With close ties to the Australian Defence Force and New South Wales Police Force, Nathan has assisted many of these clients in these sectors and others build wealth through property while navigating their busy work schedules. Nathan was also in 2018, 2019, and 2020 voted into the top 10 property specialists by the Property Investor. He's won Property Investor Awards in 2018 and 19. He's done transactions totaling over $70 million. He's a licensed real estate agent in New South Wales, Queensland, and Tasmania, a licensed estate agent in Victoria, and a licensed real estate and business agent in Western Australia. Welcome to the show, Nathan.
Thanks for that, Pete.
Yeah, no worries, Nathan, and welcome again onto the show. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have a little bit of a chat. We want to get to know a little bit about your background, how you got to where you are now, how you've grown your firm to the successful company that it now is. And then we'll talk a little bit about what you're doing in the future. Now, obviously, the listeners to this show, they're interested in building wealth through real estate in Australia. So any insights you can give on the market at the moment, or even any of your experiences over the years of ways that can help people build wealth through real estate, it's going to be greatly appreciated.
Most definitely.
Yeah, okay, so let's get started. So how did it all start for you? Like, were you working in something else and then got into real estate, or is it something you always wanted to do?
It's something that I always wanted to do, and funnily enough, fell on my lap. I grew up middle class family, middle class suburb, and I guess it was one of those opportunities that popped up on my lap, really, to have a beginner role in a local real estate agency. And then I think it's just a gradual progression. The biggest thing that you can sort of, I guess, take away from property is that there's no, quick degree that you can pick up. It really is longevity and experience. So I was doing the hard yards, and what you find is, you can get a license pretty quickly, but it's understanding all the intricacies, it's understanding markets, and that sort of takes years on years to sort of craft and put together. So I went from various jobs in local real estate to high-end apartment sales in Sydney CBD. So working with the the top of the town, high-end apartments, penthouses that overlook the harbour, and then transitioned myself into the investment space. So at the moment, licensed across all of Australia, playing in various different marketplaces, and I guess working on a whole range of different products. But now shifting my attention from the owner-occupier or the family home into that investment space where you're really building strategies around wealth and making people money, which is obviously the fun part of real estate.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the part everybody loves, is making the money. And it's interesting what you say there. Like, I mean, we've been working together for a number of years now, and I think we have this shared philosophy of we're not really trying to make, like, it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's more like getting wealthy with certainty. So we don't want to get people involved in anything where they're going to be going backwards. It's sort of this is the start of it is as bad as it's going to get, and it's only going to improve from then on. So, I mean, so you were working in, like you said, selling high-end apartments, and there is a bit of a difference there, isn't there, between people buying their own home and people investing in real estate? Like, buying your own home is quite emotional, and then investing is purely about money. Did you notice much of a difference when you swapped over there?
Yeah, very much so. Buying your own home, it comes down to, and I sort of put it down to, as you said, the emotional factor, but some ludicrous requests at sometimes.
Yeah.
And everyone has their own personal preference. So whether it's, building a 6-bedroom home or having the man cave out the back, right down to, you're going to pay an extra 60, 70,000 just so you can be close to the dog park or the local cafe that you enjoy a coffee at. That for me, is a hard cookie to bite when you're paying an extra $70,000 just to be next to your favorite cafe.
Yeah.
But if you're living there, well, you're happy to pay that. As an investment, it's obviously not going to get you any sort of further return, and it's detrimental to the property itself. So it's having that mindset shift. And I guess now that we're working in the investment space, it really comes down to numbers. So it doesn't matter whether you're investing into a 1-bedroom apartment, a 4-bedroom house, or a small development project, you're breaking down the numbers. So it doesn't matter where the property is. It doesn't matter what it's doing. Yeah. And like with all asset classes, very similar to shares. If you're investing into shares of the company, you don't really care what carpet they've got in the boardroom.
Yeah.
As long as it's making you money. And that's exactly the same sort of philosophy in property.
Yeah, and I guess with it too, like one thing that we've learned, throughout this real estate journey is that it's very important to actually get to know each client's personal situation and what goals they're trying to accomplish, and then it's kind of like then finding, even though it's real estate, it's finding what's going to suit them. Are they looking for high cash flow? Are they looking for more negative gearing for tax purposes? Are they looking for capital growth? It's more about sort of getting to meet the person. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, well, I guess that's where we've sort of developed our company over the last 4 or 5 years, where, again, previously working for a number of different businesses, they're either very, very transactional companies or it goes down into that sort of owner-occupier family home scenario, where what we've tried to create is really building a strategy out and finding properties that marry up with that strategy. So as you said, you're spot on. Someone that's on a lower income, for instance, and has a family, may be looking more so for a cash flow scenario in their property. That's going to give them an extra, $100 a week in their back pocket, and it's going to assist them in their current lifestyle. Someone, that's on a higher income, for instance, earning good money, paying a hell of a lot of tax, may be looking for a completely different strategy. And it might be tax minimization with longer term growth at play. So it's, again, property's not a one size fits all. It's tailoring different property types and different property strategies to the client. But again, the end goal is to be making money. There's no point buying a property for it just to sit there ticking over and not doing what it should be doing.
Yeah, and I suppose like the people that we're generally working with too, we're very interested in helping those that want to buy multiple properties. So right. sometimes it's having a look at, what their existing broader investment portfolio looks like, and then slotting something in place that fits in with their broader strategy as well.
Most definitely. And I think, a lot of people make the mistake that one property is the goal and shut up shop.
Yeah.
But investing and building, I guess, wealth, not only for yourself, but generational wealth, is really about acquiring assets, multiple assets, and diversifying. So whether it is in shares, whether it is property, or whether it's buying multiple asset classes and property types, it's making sure that you're continually building. And that's where the strategy is key, because again, you need to be working with accountants, with mortgage brokers that are, have your interest at heart, but are also working collectively to make sure that you're continually stepping up your game and building that wealth.
Yeah, I think that's really helped with with what we've done, hasn't it? Like having regular mortgage brokers that speak the same language as us. They know that like not only are we trying to get properties that suit our clients, but we want to get financing in place that matches that strategy so that the goal is that the property goes up in value. We pull the equity out of that property and repeat the process. The finance people are on board so that they know when that's coming, that they've got a product that's going to suit as well. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits in having that real team approach to it, isn't there?
Oh, hugely, yeah. If you've got the right team around you, and again, property is one of those asset classes where a lot of people aren't transacting it daily.
Yeah.
You might do it once or twice in your lifetime. Others may do it, 4 or 5 times. But I think, as a general rule of thumb, most people either don't have the information on hand or are not quite sure which steps they need to be taking. So, as you said, having the right team around you, guiding you through the process, makes it a lot easier, and also mitigates the risks and the mistakes that can be made.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, just stepping back a little bit in the conversation. So you're there working, you're selling the high-end apartment stuff, you're dealing with a bit of what was the thing that sort of gave you the impetus to go, hey, I've had enough of this. I'm going to put my own kind of stick in the ground and we're going to build our own company. What was the thing that did that, or was it a collection of different things?
Yeah, I think it was a collection of different things. For myself personally, it's always improving, and it was an aspiration to obviously step out and do something myself. But I think I got the nudge by, I guess, working with larger firms where a lot of my clients started to become numbers, and it was very transactional. And I think particularly in this sort of a day and age, a lot of business have sort of shifted to online. They've taken out that personal approach, and when you are investing, as I said, it's really about a strategy. It's getting to know your clients and working with them long term. Where I've found that a lot of companies sort of get too big. Everyone becomes a number, and then it's not a strategy or a tailored approach. Yeah. It's a one size fits all churn and burn system.
Yeah.
And it's not what I sort of wanted to go down. So as I said, we've sort of aligned ourselves with a number of smaller firms like yourself that have that personal approach, understand the clients, and it just makes it a lot easier to work longer term on that basis.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually just attended a seminar and here in the US, and one of the things that they talked about was the difference between essentially transactional style businesses and relationship driven businesses, where the transactional style businesses, it's typically driven by salesmen chasing commissions, and they're way more focused on their own commission than they are on what's good for the client. Now, the relationships, they're still interested in earning a commission because they got their own mortgage, they got kids to feed and that kind of stuff, so they need to make money. But in that relationship approach, it makes more sense that you have your focus on getting your client a good product, because then the client, in getting a good product, they're going to come back and buy some more product from you, but they're also going to bring their friends with you as well. So I really get what you're saying there about the difference between a transactional style business and a relationship style business. So yeah, so I mean, with that, let's talk a little bit about when you first started. What was your business like when you first started? Was it just you, or was it you and some other people, or how did you start?
I think, all first-time business owners can sort of attest that you've got your office space, you've got freshly painted walls, the printer's in, and you've got 2 desks. And I was lucky enough that I started the business with a business partner, so we could leverage off each other. But day one, we looked at each other and said, "Okay, well, what's next?" As most business owners do. Yeah. But we were fortunate enough, and I guess both of our mindsets are very closely aligned. It was getting out and hustling, and nothing beats hard work. So it was getting on the phones, setting up meetings with brokers, financial advisors, and other industry experts, and really positioning ourselves as something different in the property space, someone that they could trust with their clients, and it was building those relationships, and we're quite lucky that we built a fair few relationships early on, and started to work with clients. And it's one of those ones where we've progressionally delivered results, which has then built confidence. And as you sort of said earlier, when you are delivering results, people want to come back and buy a second property. They want to refer their friends. Like everything, the trust is a big factor for a lot of people. Property is one of those asset classes that does cost a fair bit of money. So when you are putting your hard-earned cash, you want to make sure that you've got that team and that trust factor. So that's where it all sort of started with both myself and Joshua. From there, like with every business, it's then expanding. So as we started to grow, we bring on support, started to align our team, and then brought on a couple more sales consultants. As I said, for us, it was controlled expansion. So I think a lot of businesses, get a little cocky and try and expand too quickly, and they drop quality. Really making sure that whatever you are doing, you still provide that quality to the client. You can't drop your standards. So we've sort of progressed 4 years down the track. We've now got 10 staff under us, and we're looking at expanding, bringing on another 3 or 4 staff this year, which during a pandemic, a lot of people said was moronic. But I sort of believe that when things are going wrong, or when there is that uncertainty in a marketplace, the best thing you can do is batten down the hatches and push harder, because generally 90% of the population are running. It's the 10% that keep pushing forward that collect the goods at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of Warren Buffett in that, isn't there? Like Warren Buffett says, like when be greedy when people are fearful, and be fearful when people are greedy. And it's kind of, it is, you're right. In a lot of places at the moment, there's a lot of fear around, and there's a lot of opportunity around at the moment. So just looking at that in the kind of Australian real estate market at the moment, I mean, where do you see the opportunities? And you can answer this in a number of ways. You could answer it in, it's this particular type of product, or it's this particular area, or it's, if you've got this in your portfolio, this is the next thing you need. But where do you see the opportunities lie right at the moment?
Yeah, I think, well, just going back, I guess if we retrack about 12 months, we came out of a cycle where the end of 2019, the market was on a bit of an upswing after a lull of the last year or two, because what Australia sort of faced was tightening of lending, and obviously a huge part of the Asian market pulling out of the investment space. So the market in Australia started with an upward swing. We got to, I would say, probably March, when coronavirus reared its head. And that was, I think, globally, a very, very interesting time for most people. And what we sort of found is that, as with everything, all the journalists came out of the woodwork. There was, big red headings across newspapers, 40% drops, 30% drops. And a lot of the conversations we were having with people was around, we're not comfortable investing, the market's going to collapse, this is the worst time to possibly leverage. Fast forward, obviously, roughly 12 months, and every capital city in Australia actually increased during last year, bar Melbourne. And moving forward, they're now predicting double-digit growth across the board in Australia this year. So we've gone from negative 40% to double-digit growth. And it just sort of highlights, going back previously, as we said with Warren Buffett, we had a lot of clients buy into properties last year. They took the gamble, a calculated gamble, and they all made anywhere from sort of $60,000 to $80,000 during a pandemic. The people that waited are now going to be paying an additional $70,000, $80,000 to get into the same market. So it is one of those ones where, this year we're going to see significant growth in Australia, predominantly along the East Coast. And I think, the big picture is really swinging towards land-based assets. it's sort of been highlighted recently with obviously the Americans coming over. So a few of the celebrities and superstars up in Byron Bay. But I think globally, a lot of people are now starting to look at Australia as a bit of a safety net. We've got consistent property markets that again don't collapse. We've got consistent growth, and with a population of 25 million people, we're a big island that has plenty of room for people. So I dare say population is going to be fast tracked. There's going to be a lot more migration into Australia, and at the moment we've got a housing shortage. So there is need for new property, and that's where that big opening's occurring.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I think there's something you touched on there that's really important, and that's that a lot of people in Australia, like Australia's a funny place in a lot of ways, in that everybody in Australia thinks they're a bit of an expert on real estate in some fashion. But there's a real difference between being an expert because you've read the newspaper or that watch something on television, and you're working in it every day. So you've got your finger on the pulse of where the markets are actually at and how different markets work differently. And it sounds like for you guys, what you were able to do with, your decades of knowledge between you and, your feel for the market at that time was able to position your clients, and they're now benefiting greatly from where you positioned them at that time.
Yeah, very much so. And I think it's a catchphrase from 2020 and 2019, but it really is fake news.
Yeah.
Journalists and the media are out there to sell papers. If they can turn around, puff figures up, then that's what's going to gain interest in clicks. So it's being careful with what you're listening to and I guess what you're reading. But like with everything, if you've got a car that's broken down, you go to the mechanic because that's what he does for a living. If you're sick, you go to the doctor. The biggest problem is that a lot of people get their financial and property advice from mum and dad, or from their friend that's a painter, or from the next door neighbour that is a mechanic. Unfortunately, these people don't do it for a living, and you normally get a bit of a bum steer. So if you are looking for financial advice, pay a little bit extra, get the right financial advice. If you're looking at getting into the property market, speak to people that are doing it day in, day out, because I think it is one of those hot topics, particularly in Australia, where everyone talks about it around a barbecue. And as you said, most people have a bit of an idea, but it's it's not the best idea.
No, well, there's an old saying, a little bit of knowledge is dangerous.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah. So then, given that we're expecting a fairly bullish real estate market in Australia for the next year at least, and then and you said the Eastern Seaboard, so are you thinking major metropolitans, or are you thinking like regional centres, or both, or?
Yeah, major metropolitan for a lot of people is priced out. So it is one of those scenarios now where there is very, very little land in the capital cities. So you'd be really looking at, apartments or townhouses. But there's a lot more growth, I think, in those affordability price belts. So between that sort of 500,000-700,000 mark, and shifting towards the satellite cities. So what coronavirus has highlighted to a degree is that people are now willing to move a little bit further out from the capital cities, looking for land-based assets, but also looking for lifestyle. Like with Australian culture, people want to be close to the beaches, they want to be close to parklands, and that's why we've predominantly stayed close to the coastline. And all those areas now are starting to expand quite quickly. And with everything, you've got coast on one side and you've got land on the other. Yeah. You want to be close to the coast, you pay for it. And as the land gets sapped up, it just keeps increasing in value.
Yeah. Look, there's another interesting point that is a little bit similar to that I've noticed in the last couple of years, and we've seen it with a lot of our clients, is that there's people now starting to separate that lifestyle decision from their investment decision. Like once upon a time in Australia, it was buy your home, let it increase in value. When you're older and the kids leave, you sell it off. you buy something smaller and invest the difference to sort of cash flow you through the later years of your life. What I've noticed, and I'd be interested in your comments on this, is that we see clients now and they might want to live in somewhere like, like in Bondi Beach or in Manly or, some more affluent areas of Melbourne. They want to live in those places, but they can't afford there. So what they're doing is they're renting in their ideal lifestyle location and separating out their investment decisions and then just buying investment properties in other locations. Have you experienced much of that?
Yeah, well, you've given a great explanation of it. The word that gets thrown around all the time is rent investing. And exactly that concept. So I guess when we look at our parents and when they purchased property prices were a lot less, but interest rates at the time were a lot higher. So it positioned them where they could buy one asset and they really wanted to try and pay that off as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So as you said, a lot of the older generation will have their own asset, but they won't have those investments, and it's what we call asset rich, cash poor.
Yeah.
Now we've got a generation where money is very, very cheap, record lows, circa 3%. But property prices are ridiculously expensive. And I think, we're now a generation where we like, the little luxuries of life.
Yeah.
We're going out for dinner. We have the iPhones. We like to live, close to friends, close to city, close to amenities. So for a lot of people, they don't want to sacrifice like their parents did.
Yep.
And further and further out. And I think a lot of people now are, single a lot longer, focused on their career a lot more, where they're not looking to start a family in the, their early 20s like our parents did. So it's really sort of building that lifestyle where you can, as you said, live where you want to live, buy your friends, have that, cash flow coming through, but also look at investing. And when you do look at investing, as you said, it's all about the numbers. Property is just one asset class. You could be buying into shares, cryptocurrency. There's a whole range of assets, but the goal of investing is obviously to make money.
Yeah.
And property, I think, provides that stable asset class where, again, you won't be a millionaire overnight, but if you can put the keystones in place, by the time you do start that family or want to settle down, if you've done the hard yards in the background, it will allow you to get into the city market.
Yeah, and I mean, like another thing that I always think about is like when people are like, as you say, they're single, they get married, they have kids, the kids get bigger, they want more space. And they actually have to trade their way through, sometimes it's 3 or 4 different houses. And each time they do that, like in Sydney now, if you sell a house, you have like real estate agents' fees, you have lawyers' fees for selling it. You buy another one, you have another set of legal fees, you have stamp duty, you've got marketing costs when you sell it. And it can cost you like, just for a normal house, 100 to 200,000 just to switch from one house to another. Whereas, and that's very dead cost. You're not going to get any of that money back. Whereas if you're separating those decisions out, you can, when you're renting, you can move from house to house with no cost. And you're not then having to sell off your assets and, incur capital gains tax or all of those other costs I spoke about. So, yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of a proponent myself of building up your assets and just using it with a kind of money point of view, and then renting where you want to live so that you're getting the lifestyle there as well.
Yeah, I can definitely see the accountancy brain switch on there.
Yeah. The money brain. It's the money brain.
Money brain, exactly right. But I mean, I've followed the same sort of suit, and so has Joshua, my other business partner. But from an early age, exactly that, investing in the background and renting where I wanted to live.
Yeah.
Sort of mentioned, I've been traveling. I've lived in probably 6 different areas over the last 7 years.
Yep.
And it wasn't until I actually met my wife and had my first son that we've decided to lock in an area, again, close to the beach. And now that I am settled and in a bit more of a routine, I've bought my own home to move into, but it was on the back of being able to invest and shift around in my earlier years and not be locked down to that asset. And as you said, when you are single, things change, things shift, you move around. So to buy a property to move into and have it as a clunky asset and try and continually upgrade, it's detrimental to your cash flow and your finances.
Yeah.
So really don't want to be selling property. It is a clunky asset. You want to be holding for the long term.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So, just with asset base, there's you and Josh. You've got the 10 people there. Projected forward, like how old's your son now?
He's 15 months now.
He's 15 months. I saw a photo of him yesterday. He is starting to look a lot bigger than 15 months, by the way.
He is, mate. A couple of years and I'll hopefully have him in an asset-based shirt doing the hard yards.
Yeah. No, he's a very healthy looking kid, that's for sure. So let's project it forward, 5 years. Where do you see yourself personally, like career-wise? What's your lifestyle look like? And then where does asset base go to in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think for asset base as a whole, it's really just that controlled expansion. We're not looking at, and I always sort of liken it with a lot of businesses, they try and push too hard too quickly and become too big. And we've got no real interest in becoming too big in the sense that everyone becomes a number. So we want to maintain a nice controlled expansion where we can provide that level of service, that our staff, again, are not chasing dollars, and have the time to sit down with clients and really sort of nurture them and build those strategies out. So for us, it's really sort of just knuckling down over the next 5 years. And again, just controlled expansion, looking after our clients, building out their strategies and repeating the process. You look after your staff, and the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah, it sounds like your key focus is continuing to provide that personalized service and then just refining your processes so that you just continue to deliver better and better products to your clients all the time.
Very much so, yeah. And I think, coronavirus as well has sort of highlighted that, chaos can come out of nowhere. I think a lot of people got a bit of time off or are still working from home. And it sort of flipped the switch where, again, now that I've got a 15-month-old, really managing to, or sort of balancing that work and lifestyle together. I think a lot of people got suckered in with working 12, 14-hour days and not enjoying the little things. So it's really setting up those structures where you can work hard, look after people, but also switch off. Spend time with family, maintain your health, do a bit of exercise, and enjoy the little things.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things I noticed too with coronavirus, as a financial impact, was people started to, because there was a massive share market correction at that time, that pushed a lot of people into property, and particularly what we saw was people who had their money sitting in super where they have no control of it. We had a bit of a rush of people wanting to set up self-managed super funds to buy property. Did you guys experience the same sort of thing?
Yeah, most definitely. I think, when you break down asset classes, particularly property in Australia has always been one of the safest. Generally, it doubles every 8 years. And what we found, as you said, particularly with the stock market and the fluctuations that occurred, a lot of people didn't have confidence. So they really sort of rushed and wanted to try and get their money into an asset class that, again, may not return the quick gains that shares potentially could, but also won't present those losses that a lot of people suffered. So there were a fair few self-managed super funds set up, and a lot of those people have now gone into the property market and done quite well out of it. And it is one of those asset classes, as we said. Super, you're not going to be able to touch to your sort of 65, 70. So put your property in there, park it. You're not selling it, you're not transacting it, and just let it grow.
Yeah. No, that's it. That's real good advice. And I mean, what I noticed too is particularly how tough it was for people kind of at the end of their working life, with their superannuation being tied up in the equity markets, that all of a sudden they had 30 or 40% of their net wealth just destroyed overnight. And I don't think I've ever seen that with property.
It's soul destroying. And funnily enough, my parents were in the same sort of position, and it was shattering for them. Because
Yeah.
as you've done your hard yards, you don't have control over your super. I think that's the big key that people don't take away. It's at the mercy of, as you said, at the mercy of the markets. And, for a lot of people, it was a huge hit that really, when you look at it, a 30-40% drop, it sets you back another 20 years.
Oh, it's catastrophic, isn't it?
For a lot of people, that's, 10, 15 years worth of retirement funds that anticipated. So I think, it sort of highlights as well that there's going to be a lot more corrections moving forward and a few more fluctuations. So you really want to be setting yourself up, because it is one of those scenarios where I think the divide will get a lot larger between people that have wealth and people that don't. And you want to make sure that you're investing and you're building for your future. Otherwise, you'll end up on the wrong side of the divide.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Okay, so we might kind of wrap up there. Is there any sort of tips or things on your mind at the moment that you're thinking about property that you could share with people? Is it more just about coming and meeting with you, getting a strategy session done and working out how, you can help these people achieve their financial goals?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have sort of been sitting on the fence. We had over the Christmas break roughly 700, 800 inquiries come through, which was phenomenal. We're still trying to get through a lot of the calls, as you can imagine, but there's definitely been a big shift for people wanting to start investing and get themselves ahead. So I think, particularly this year, if you are considering it or wanting to get yourself into a position to invest, it's, as you mentioned, sit down, get a bit of an understanding of where you're currently positioned, what you can do, and I guess the question, or the age-old question that I always get asked, when's the best time to invest in property? There's two good times, 20 years ago or now.
Yeah, that's true.
Property always increases, even if you buy at the peak of the market 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Fast forward 20 years, you've still made money. So don't sit on the fence, start taking action. And as I said,
yeah, no, that's great advice. And that, the first piece of action is just reaching out and contacting someone and just working out what you can and cannot do.
Yep, exactly right.
Okay, cool. So just wrapping up then, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, Nathan, what's the best way to do that? Like, you got a website, email address, phone number, that kind of stuff?
Website with a fair bit of information. So assetbase.com.au. So ASSETBASE. We're on Facebook as well and Instagram. So on either of those platforms, there's a fair few videos. Even if you're just wanting to get a little bit more information, handy hints that you can sort of click through. And as I said, if it is something that you're interested in, shoot through an email, shoot us a quick text or a call, and we can happily sit down with you for an hour or so and get a bit of understanding of what your situation looks like and whether investing into the Australian property market's for you.
Okay. Well, thanks again for coming on the show, and hopefully we'll be doing a lot more together in the future.
My pleasure.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Peter. Bye.